is Dr. Tabi Mayton. I work for the Medical Research Council. The Medical Research Council has many different subunits. I come from a division which is known as Research Capacity Development. In most publications, you'll see this abbreviated as RCD. That simply stands for Research Capacity Development. In Research Capacity Development, we are charged with doing various things on behalf of the Medical Research Council. One of these things is to train people in certain scientific skills. Scientific skills such as, for instance, statistics, how to do the statistics in your work as a scientist. Things like, for instance, how to write an abstract for a publication. This particular time, we are going to be involved in a workshop that is going to teach you yet another scientific skill, that is scientific writing. If you are here because you are interested in knowing how to write scientifically. Now, I just want to explain to you what it is that we mean when we say scientific writing. By scientific writing, we mean a method of communicating scientific information in a formal, structured way where the audience that is targeted are scientists. This is different from writing everyday English language writing. There is a format in which you have to write. The important things to remember here are that you've got to be very clear. You've got to communicate what it is that you are doing, why it is that you are doing it. In other words, you have got to capture your audience so that they know why you did the project that you want to report on and communicate to them. You've also got to state very clearly what it is that you found when you did your project, how you went about to find out the answers that you are wanting to report on. So that is why we give a special name to this kind of writing. We call it scientific writing. This is a workshop that is going to assist you to be the best in scientific writing. Now, you might wonder why you need to actually gain the skills of scientific writing. Well, there's a reason for that. The reason is that as a scientist, this is how you are judged by the other scientists. How many publications you have done, how you have done your work and communicated it to the audience, because this is why we get different ratings. Some publications are rated higher than others. So that's why we are doing this workshop, to give you the best chance at writing in the best way that you can on the work that you're doing as a scientist. Now, we are going to be doing this in a form of a DVD. It's a recorded workshop. The reason for that is that we don't want to restrict people to time and space. You don't have to come to us, and you don't have to be physically somewhere in order for you to access this workshop. So you can always just access it by playing the DVD. The person that is going to be actually facilitating this work for us is a doctor, Dr. David Katerere. Dr. Katerere is a scientist who's working for the Medical Research Council. He's a specialist, and he works on some work that involves cancer research, amongst other things. But more importantly, for this purpose, Dr. Katerere is passionate about scientific writing. He is an expert in scientific writing, and he has graduated quite a few students. Now, that should tell you that not only does he have the passion, but he's got the expertise for this kind of writing. So he is going to assist you in the process, and I do not want you to worry about the actual interaction, because through this video, you will see a blog that is going to be communicated, how you can actually log your questions during the video. And then those questions will be noted by us and the expert who is facilitating this workshop, and we will be able to give you feedback. So it is not only there for you to get without the constraints of time and space, but you can actually interact with us. So I hope that you'll be enjoying this video, and you'll be able to take away from it as much as you can. Enjoy the video.
Writing skills are really fundamental to whatever you will do. Let me give you an example. So I got my PhD 10 years ago. So that's when I last wrote my thesis. I struggled quite a bit as well. But at least the university that I was in actually had a writing program. And I know that a lot of universities in South Africa don't have writing programs, which is why we actually started this thing. And over the years, I've written quite a lot in scientific journals, but also I have also written political stuff, because I like writing political stuff. But last year I got a year to spend in the US working in a company. And then one of the things that I have been learning for a few years is not just scientific writing, but it's actually to write a business proposal. So it's all about writing. But at the end of the day, the skills are quite the same. I was talking to my son last night. He's a UNISA in law. And I was reading whatever it is that he had written as an assignment. And I actually had encouraged him to come to this workshop, because I said, well, look, I don't know anything about law, but I think that you need some writing skills. So whatever it is, I'm hoping that at the end of the day, you'll take at least one thing back with you. And then there are those of you that say, oh, this is a blessing because you're in your finals, you finished your lab work and you're ready to write. Well, the bad news is, it might be a bit too late. So we're probably 3 or 4 years late, because with writing you need to start right from the beginning. And these are some of the things that I will tell you about. You actually need to start at the beginning. And then I emphasize a lot on structure rather than content, because when you write, structure is very, very important. If you look at a newspaper, right, you see that the first thing they do is always to structure the paper. So when you look at the front page of a newspaper, there's always the structure to go with it, because the mind works in terms of structure. Okay, so if the headline was at the bottom of the newspaper, the name of the newspaper was on the side, the mind actually would get really confused and wouldn't understand it. So think about structure all the time. Every time you're writing, you need structure. And then of course content is there. Content is there in the books worldwide, it's in your head, but it's how you actually convert that content into structure. Alright. Then the other thing, of course, is as you sit there, I saw that the UCT people are sitting together, the UWC people just come together, Kamika and Pamela, because they've been working together, they just come in. Everybody's in their comfort zone. What I like to encourage is that, after, well, you're the only one. So, yeah. But these are habits that you're already starting to form. And those habits are actually bad habits. Because when you guys are going to be going to conferences when you become doctors and professors, and what generally happens is that you fly all the way to New York to a conference, and the first thing you do is you want to look for a South African delegate. So what's the point? Because as you are here, you actually need to be interacting and saying, kids, I haven't met you, but I'll probably meet you in the future because we'll work together. So you should start establishing relationships here. Because science, after all, is a very collaborative field. Okay, so I'm hoping that you will do that as well. And then these are just general comments, for you to take note of, because I might not have time to pick up on them. Also, as I said earlier on, I get worried when I keep seeing people that I saw last year or 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And it's a genuine worry from me, because I would like to see you at your conference saying that, I got my PhD, right? And I know for various reasons that people stay longer than they should have. But again, you need to have a plan when you start this thing. About 2 weeks ago, I was talking to a professor at University of South Africa, trying to convince him to take on a student. And one of the things he talked about was this, I would like to call it LLS, linger longer syndrome, right? People get sometimes as interns, you get into this comfort zone that you just think, okay, it's okay, I'm getting paid my money, I can linger longer around here. Yeah, but we don't want that. I think the RCD, what the RCD wants to do is they want to graduate you guys. They want to hear that you're now wanting to take interns, right? Because South Africa cannot afford to have you guys year in, year out. It costs, on average, I was trying to calculate, maybe R500,000 rand for the 2 or 3 years that interns are here. And that's R500,000 rand from my pocket, because I pay tax. So we want you guys to go up there and also start paying tax, okay? Yeah. Yeah, because we have such a small tax base in this country, and you're the people, you're the leaders, right? But one of the things that happens in trying to leave soon is obviously that you come across a supervisor who's obdurate and will tell you, no, they still want you around. And it's unfortunate because some supervisors hang on to you because you're very good. So they want to basically squeeze everything, they want to give you all these things, get to publish as much as they can out of you. But I think that supervisors should also see, okay, my intern is now at the Department of Health. And that's a good thing for me, because now he's appointed me an expert member of a committee or other, you know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is that supervisors should also see beyond just having you as a student. And one of the things maybe, Tabi, at some point you need to do is to maybe get a management expert for the interns. Because you guys need to manage your supervisors. Okay, that's called managing up. So you need to know how to approach supervisors and to be able to make them understand that, look, you have families to feed and you need to get out there and get a job. Quite a lot of you, I think, are stuck in that situation where your supervisor is just hanging around. And it is very frustrating because I think we're experiencing that with some of our interns. So this is the outline of the talk, of this whole day. This is actually a hands-on workshop. So if some of you came and you said, oh, I'm hoping to learn, well, you are going to learn, whether you like it or not. So we're going to do the introduction. I've pretty much done, but I'm going to get a bit more into that. And then we're going to talk about thesis writing specifically. And then you all received an assignment before. We're going to go through that assignment. It doesn't matter if you don't know what aflatoxin is, because you're a scientist. And what tends to happen in science is that when you guys are out there and you graduate, a lot of journals will probably send you material to evaluate, and these articles are not necessarily in your direct field, okay, but they are in the general field, which is why I wanted to test you guys with that aflatoxin example. And that's actually a real life example, because that's a proposal that I have a student at the University of Zimbabwe. And that's a proposal that he's actually working on. So he's much younger, he's an honors student. But the proposal as it is a fairly robust proposal. And I wanted you guys to pick out what things he can improve on. Okay, so we will talk through that. And then there are people we're talking about journal publication, so we'll talk about that a thesis is not the same, and a thesis writing, the techniques are the same, but you need then to apply a separate set of criteria when thinking about journal publication. And then we'll talk about some useful tips, okay? This is interactive, so you can stop me at any time, you can ask questions, you can disagree with me, you can make comments. So feel free, you can talk from your own experiences. All right. Okay, so let's start with this assignment. This assignment is, I think Tabi and Lebo will be taking notes because this is an important assignment. Research is an important part of a country's development. However, it costs a lot of money, and many people feel that developing countries like South Africa cannot afford to fund research. I think that includes MRC. while there are real problems, actually, there are real problems which require urgent attention and money, discuss both points of view and give your opinion. Okay, you've got a writing pad there where you are. Okay, so for the next 5-10 minutes, I would like you to do this exercise. Okay? You're actually free to talk to the person next to you because it's not a test.
Okay. I think research is an essential part of finding the solution, because if we put focus on other things and ignore research, I don't think we'll get anywhere. In instances with finding TB vaccines, HIV vaccines, we know that in South Africa we've got a high incidence of HIV. So to solve the problem, we need further research so that we can find the solution to the problem. So I think if we were to do more research and find vaccines, HIV vaccines, it will reduce hospitalizations and medical care costs, thereby cutting the budget from South Africa. So I think it will reduce much more problems that we're encountering.
Thank you.
Thank you. Research needs to be done because people are directed by the problem, therefore we need to find possible solutions. And to disseminate or pass on information is a tool to educate and inform people directly affected so that they can live better and possibly prevent some of their diseases. So we need to conduct organizations from developed countries to support the developing countries. So let us information for funding to support respective projects, for example, HIV, AIDS, or malaria initiative. Thank you.
Right. You don't?
No, I think I have everything in the book. Just browsing through it and bringing the question that we had to answer. I think reading is dedication will kind of, in a way, give us a reason why we have to do research. Okay. This is our traits. To those who went before us, their knowledge makes us who we are. And those who will tread after us, that they may keep and own it too. So obviously from my stand, as we are here today and everybody out there, if we ignore our responsibility today, the future generation is going to be lost. And I believe through research, we can contribute and at least enlighten them of the way forward relative to what they will encounter in future.
Okay, that was like, that was so emotional. I was like, that was like a Grammy speech.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present our case. We had collaborated with Liesl, Wipilo, and myself. So these are the problems we find. Right. The major problem we find was funding. Excuse my bad handwriting. Okay, right. And then the two other problems that originated from funding, one was science. And then the other one was social issues. Okay, right. And then there were other problems that supported the social issues. And then here we had basic education. We had basic health. We had job creation, high crime rates, poverty, and social grants. So these are the things that support the fact that why funding could not go into science. All this, they form social problems, and these are the problems why we can't get funding. And scientifically, the other problems, the training of researchers. For example, having an RCD team. The other one was public health issues. For example, the HIV pandemics, influenza pandemics, getting vaccines, those are crucial issues that need to get funding before we get the training for scientists. And another issue was collaboration. Right. For us to get specialists in our own country, we need to collaborate with other countries who are well developed and are well equipped, who got good knowledge and their system is up and running, so that they can train us, which is going to be very expensive for us to get the funding from the government. So, irrespective of the reasons that we laid out, that it's difficult and it's not easy for us as scientists to get the funding, we needed to lay out reasons which overcome this for us to get motivated that we as scientists, we needed the funding, irrespective of all the problems that we laid out. So these were the reasons. Okay, I'll just lay them out. One, it will improve job creation, because when you develop a scientist, then the scientist will develop another scientist, which is basically skills development and everything. And then it will lessen poverty. It will also lessen social grants, and then it will also improve both basic health and public health issues. And then for that matter, there will be more output in the training of research, which improves almost everything. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Well done, everybody. My concern is that a lot of you didn't address the question. Okay. Discuss both points of view and give your opinion. Okay. So a lot of people came up here and said, good things, but you were not actually addressing the problem. This was a very good attempt to try and look at, because he tried to split. Okay, so these are the problems, but what are the points of view? Some points of view say, let's put money into social. Okay, and then some points of view will say, let's put money into scientific. But somewhere in between, you then need, like what you're rightly saying, that you cannot just address social issues without research to inform that. Okay. When you go back tonight, I want you to go and look at the problem again and see how you can address it. And again, structure. What you have to do is, in general, to split your page. Okay? If you could do that, or the way that he tried to do it. He's cheating because he knows my mind mapping games. But yeah, so I'm impressed that after all these years. But the point is, whenever you get a problem, the first thing you do is to actually look at the structure. Okay? And in this case, it's talking about opinions, two opinions. So I would divide my page up. Some of you actually did. And then I'll try to list the pros and the cons, whether you're going to do it in a structure like this or just in a page. Then instead of jumping, a lot of you guys were jumping and already writing things. And you find that after a sentence or two, you have nothing to say. So you kind of start repeating whatever you said in the first sentence. Okay, and that's what you do whenever you get a problem. You actually try to plan around it. Okay, this actually came from a test that I recently took. Not the question, but that way of thinking. And it was an English test, and they were asking for an opinion. So what you've got to do is you've got to give the pros and the cons, and then you have to then weigh which side are you on and give reasons for that. Okay. Okay, what I want to say there is that the proposal is really the cornerstone of a thesis. So you cannot talk about a thesis without talking about a proposal, right? And so a proposal really is about planning, like that problem, that exercise that I gave you. You really need to sit down and actually plan it first before you put pen to paper. So what is the structure of that proposal? What is it that, what are the pros and the cons? This is what I would call mind map, which is what Patrick did, where you've just got these blocks. So mind map the problem and the process. So I think from this he was then able to say, okay, what are the benefits of research? And some of them were very interesting. And I think what Kamika said was also very interesting. You cannot say, oh, we have a big HIV problem in South Africa. That was informed by research, right? But we want to solve that problem, but we don't know the numbers. So you have to do some research. Yeah. So that doing of research means that you begin to understand the literature. What is it that has been said about South Africa? In fact, how many people do we have in South Africa? If we don't look at the literature, we probably don't even know. Are we the only people in South Africa? Are they 80 million? Are they 90 million? These things are, have been researched. That's primary research. When people do a population census, that's actually research, even though we don't usually talk about it in that. And then, of course, you need to speak the language. For you to understand the literature, you actually need to know what are the terminologies, what are the definitions. And again, when you guys are writing, if I said to you, man, okay. Okay, if I said man, what is it? I didn't say a man, I said man. Yeah, it can mean different things to different people, right? So whenever you are writing, the first thing you always do is to define your area. You give the definitions and the reader has to accept that definition. Okay, because if you just assume that the reader knows, then you're wrong. Okay. You find in the assignments, the aflatoxin assignment, for instance, we talk about food safety. Okay, but what is it? It could mean a lot of different things. So where would you find the definition of food safety? You find it in the literature. And it lends credibility to you if you can use an institutional definition. Okay, all of you guys are in health sciences, one form or another. What is the definition of health? The well-being. Okay. And who said that? Yeah. This is interesting because you all said, oh, I'm doing health research, I'm doing a PhD in this, I'm doing a PhD in that. But you don't even know the definition of health. What is it? The WHO actually has a definition which encompasses not just, so you're saying well-being, but they're talking about physical, spiritual, social well-being. So it's a pretty comprehensive definition. And you can go home and look for that. Define health, WHO. So they give you a definition. So when somebody is saying, I'm sick, I am of ill health, they might not necessarily be physically unwell. You know, they could be mentally unwell, or they could even be, according to the WHO definition, they could even be spiritually unwell. So it's a very comprehensive definition. Okay, I'm trying to drive the point that when I look at a lot of theses, they are not definitions. And sometimes people just like to write these big words that they don't even understand themselves because they've seen it in the literature. Okay.
Just thinking, David, that maybe we could advise them at this stage, you know, to just include in your thesis a definition of bad writing, and then say that you will find examples of bad writing in this thesis. That way, nobody can find that this is wrong. You're just demonstrating that.
Yeah. So another approach is actually for you to have a glossary of definitions, right? You don't actually have to include it in the final document, but you do it for yourself. Okay, because when you stand up there and you start talking and somebody says, hey, stop, please define this thing, you know, and you're in the field and you can't define it. Please define health. You're the MRC president. And, okay, yeah, you know, it will look bad. The other thing is that you start early. In other words, you start at the beginning. So whatever it is that you guys have been writing over the past 3 months or 6 months, that's already your thesis. You know, when you put pen to paper and you find a title for a proposal, for me, you already started to write a thesis. Because what you should do is, and some universities are very good at this, they'll say that every 6 months you should submit a report, or every year. And at the end of 3 years, that report actually now becomes a thesis. Because as you go along, you keep adding things. You know, when you've done an experiment, then you'll add something, and yeah. And that's how you should approach it. There's never a time when you actually say, okay, now I'm going to start writing my thesis. Right? Because you probably have forgotten a lot of things. What you say is, now I'm going to update my proposal so that it becomes a thesis.
I think in this case, the MRC reports raise that part. Because you only update them of where you are from the last time.
Yeah, but you must understand that the MRC reports are managerial reports, right? These guys are not going to sit around and say, oh, you didn't put a definition here or a definition there. Yeah. Your academic supervisors or your mentors, that is their job. When we submitted our reports, those would be separate. But those would just be saying, okay, we say that we are going to be doing this in the lab, that has now been completed. But I don't think that you guys want reams and reams of, you know, material. You probably, it's okay to have it, but you're not going to go through it as your mentor should do. Yeah. And if your mentors don't ask for reports, then make a report yourself and keep it aside. So that you can, that goes to milestones. You know, so you have a milestone, you say, in 6 months, I want to have my proposal should now be split into the chapters, and I should add my results section. And whenever I get results, I'm going to put them in there. So what I normally do when I start a project is I just open up a folder on my computer, and I just write the title. It's a working title after all. I write the title, and I even say abstract, introduction, materials and methods, and I leave it, and I go away. So every time I think of something, or I have some results, I'll just put them there in their raw form, right? And you'll be amazed at how effective you can become when you start to do that. Because in 3 or 6 months down the line, you might even have a paper. So now you just need to update on the literature. You need to actually now structure it properly. So that's what you need to do. And the other thing is to keep copies of this. So don't just put it on a memory stick. You know, make sure if you're on a university network, then put it on a shared drive, because these things can get lost or they can crash. So make sure you have different copies that are updated. And I'll tell you later on a story that taught me a big lesson. Okay, then the other thing is you should separate writing from editing. Okay? Because you don't want to get caught up in correcting grammar when you're at the writing stage. What you want to do is just to write, because the ideas are coming. So just type away, don't worry about font size at that stage. And then maybe you might decide, oh, today I'm feeling lazy, I don't have so much inspiration. Then you can go through and edit. Because editing is almost an inactive process. But you're using your time effectively. Okay? And a lot of us find it very difficult to accept criticism. Why is that? Because we think they're criticizing me, you know. I have 10 years of experience and they're criticizing me. But they're not. They're criticizing your work. Right? Your work is separate from you. Like yesterday we were having this discussion with Tavi and I was saying, I saw a quote recently that said, at any one time, you are juggling at least 3 balls and you've got to keep them, in the air. And one of those balls is life, okay? One of those balls is work. And for you guys, work is life as well. But, the third ball is probably relationships. If you've got children or a wife, husband, relationships. And you have to keep all these balls in the air at any one point, right? And this guy goes on to say that, well, if the work ball, these are glass balls, so if the work ball falls to the ground and crashes, you'll find that it's no big deal, really, because you can always get another work ball, right? But if the life ball or the relationships ball crashes, those can be very difficult, right? So I sympathize with the situation you guys are in. But what I'm trying to say is that look at the work ball. It's separate from you. So when people criticize your work, they're not criticizing who you are. And take it that way. And in science, we're very critical. We're very different from people in literature. Because in literature, you write a book, and then, well, nobody criticizes you until the book is read out there in the public. Then people say, that's a very good book, or that's a really bad book. But even the people who say that's a bad book have already bought it. So, you say, I got your money. yeah, that's what Martin Sheen was saying, when people were booing. Say, yeah, okay, go ahead, boo, but I got your money, right? You paid. Yeah. Now in science it's different. In science you write something and people tear it apart. It goes to peer reviewers and they say this is rubbish, this. But well, you can improve on it. So it comes back to you, you improve on it, and then it goes out there and then nobody reads it. And that's the reality, except students. Yeah. So okay. Now let's go on and talk more serious business. The actual thesis writing. So are there any comments or questions?
Well, I liked what you were talking about when you said writing begins from the beginning. Because when I was doing my master's, I didn't appreciate the fact that my supervisor was pushing me around, reading and writing and submitting something every other week. So it's only now that I see what he was doing then. It actually helped me understand. When I do my PhD now, I don't struggle much because he taught me that already at a very early age. So I think it's a very good lesson that you learn to write from the beginning. Before you even start doing lab work and everything, you must have a literature review.
Yeah, that's good. And of course, you constantly review your literature review because there are new things being published all the time. Yeah, but he's a very good supervisor. You see, there are some people that you guys think are very good supervisors because they don't bother you. But yeah, so they go away and they go in conferences and all of that stuff, and then, but it's your life, you know. So you start to struggle actually when you start wanting to write up, because you've been maybe enjoying what you think was good management. This is again what I was saying. There's a lot of management that you need when you do an academic, when you're pursuing academic research, because you've got to manage yourself and make time to write. And if you don't have somebody to help you, like the supervisor, you can get lost very quickly.
I just think it's actually what you're saying is the best way, because it's really hard to write there. If you haven't been writing anything, to go down and locate papers. No, when I was doing my master's, I was writing while I was working in the lab, and at the end it was done at the same time. And even now I'm done with my literature review, it's just updating it with time relative to the new information that I found. I think it's easy that way. To leave it at the end, say after 5 years you go in for the papers, you started downloading some years back, and to get the introduction, the literature review, that's something else. You can end up taking years just to run.
In Greek, a thesis actually just means a position. If you remember that little exercise that I gave you earlier on, I then asked for your opinion. So, in other words, you could write a thesis on that thing. What are the pros and what are the cons, and what is your position, and how do you support your position? So you have material to support everything that you're talking about. You advance an argument and you try to support that argument. And remember, when you argue, you should also take into view the other side of the coin, which is what I was saying, that a lot of you did not address the problem. Okay, and in general, this then is a template that I would encourage you to use, especially if you're just doing a draft. Most universities have their own types of templates. And one of the things, obviously, that you have to find out is what is, right from the beginning, what's the template that I'm going to use? What's the font type? Because universities, the more organized universities, would tell you what font type they want, what font size they want. They might even tell you the size of the thesis itself. You know, so that you don't spend time trying to write a 1,000-page thesis when they only want 200. Okay, so these are the things that you have to prepare yourselves. Talk to your academic supervisors and find out all of these things before you start. But for all intents and purposes, everything will be quoting the different titles that you find here. You've got a title of the thesis. Some universities are very pedantic because they will say whatever title you gave for your proposal should be the title for your thesis. But I always think in terms of a working title, you know, because this is a moving target. What if you say that your aim is to isolate the DNA of a fish?